this is Sierra and welcome to another video. Today we're doing another video reading Clockwork Chronicles, The Lost Hermits. We are going to be continuing on part 2, which will start with chapter 3. I don't know how far we'll go, but yeah, we'll see. Anyway, if you guys haven't read the first part, be sure you do so, because it's not really spoilers, but it's kind of a spoiler. It's kind of important that you read the other 2 chapters. It's just fun too. Yeah, I fulfilled a promise. I had a super. Finally. Even though nobody said that, I did it because I knew I needed to. And they kept teasing it for months. I just done it. So you don't want to miss that. So go back and watch that, and then come back here and start it. Chapter 3. Spoilers ahead. Impulse will spend most of the day with Jem and Pearl as the sun was starting to set. The hermit soared through the sky after wishing his friends well, reminding them that he would call again in the morning. That was a promise he planned to keep, if he could help it. He could hear Blake gliding right behind him, having been nearby the entire day as well. Finally, the hermit spotted what he was looking for as he flew to the ground, landing in front of Grian's base. Seeing that the only light that was on was in the main room, as the door opened. The hermit approached, seeing his friend's surprise, but relieved to see him. I didn't think he'd stop by to check on me. Grian chuckled, gesturing for his friend to come inside. Hey, Impulse. How's everything going? Impulse asked quickly. I know you didn't want to drive by the girls' bases due to concerns of safety. Yeah, I was just being a little cautious, Grian sighed. I'm sure it would have been fine, but not hearing a word from any of Mr. A's men is kind of worrisome. Not even from Rose? Liam? Impulse pressed. Hermit shrugged. I don't know. Beat-Up is still in touch with them, and they haven't said a word. Mr. A seems to have gone radio silent after the defeat a couple of weeks ago. Impulse nodded, uncertainty filling him, as he took a seat, watching Grian cover the window. Grian covered the window with the blinds quickly to block out the view from the outside. Background noise. But at least the redstone problem's taken care of? Impulse asked, remembering the whole fiasco of what happened those past few weeks. Being attacked by Mr. A's men in the attempt to capture him, watching Devin get infected by the virus, unable to save him, seeing his kids in so much pain, especially after telling him bits and pieces of what happened to him. The hermit shuddered at the thought. Mostly, yeah. Grian nodded. I'm sure they have some of it left, but not enough to kill an entire village. Yikes. Impulse gulped. Why would you want to do that? Grian shrugged. Creatures tend to hide in unexpected places, sometimes even amongst people, and in turn results in a massacre of people in the village, if the village chooses not to turn over the YouTubers. Oh, Impulse nodded. Doesn't stop them from using the eliminator for the same thing, Grian muttered loudly as he looked over at Impulse as he said it. The hermit could see the pain in his friend's eyes. You still have nightmares about that? Impulse asked quietly. Grian nodded. I could never get those images out of my head. I couldn't do anything to stop it. Only watch. The hermit closed his eyes as he sat down next to him, lifting his head to the ceiling. There was a long moment of silence as Impulse wrapped an arm around him. At least we know how to destroy them. Yeah, but what if they send more than one? Grian asked. Or an actual assassin? What could we do to stop them? Well, your base is rigged with traps, right? Impulse breath. You can use that to your advantage. Grian smiled and nodded. How about you? I can work on that. Impulse said thoughtfully, with a smile. The other hermit nodded again. Mr. A has a fewer people he can use for his advantage anyway, which means he has to rely on real people. Yeah, but we haven't heard about a jailbreak, Grian admitted, as he sat upright, straight. And both work. Or any school which Mr. A might have. He has a school too? Impulse asked, raising an eyebrow in surprise. Grian shook his head and smiled. I don't know for sure. I brought it up to Beat-Up to see if it was likely, and he told me he would bring it up with Rose. It does make sense, though, seeing as they are using young teens as soldiers now. I'm getting desperate, Impulse said with amusement. Green giggled. Very much so. Still, I don't want to underestimate their capabilities either. You got lucky last time, and you might not have the same luck this time around. At least we can enjoy what time we do have, right? Both asked. We've been through a lot already. So have you. You've been through a lot already. So have you, Green pointed out as he sighed. Could you tell me what you three came up with, maybe at least? Sure, Impulse said brightly, before hesitating. We haven't changed all that much. Just basically to keep in touch with each other and make sure we talk to the Hermit if at all possible. Right, Green nodded calmly. I know Scar is still good. Caleb's been doing his best, especially now that a few people have pitched in to help him out. Still no permanent solution found? Impulse asked curiously. Green shook his head. They're more focused on more important matters. He chuckled softly. I don't even know what that even means, but they don't think it's worth watching every single one of us if we can use our other protectors to get in touch with. Plus, there isn't really a problem having Caleb just be in charge of helping her. It's about time kids like Blake and Caleb get a chance to shine, you know? Besides, they can get a lot of help and advice from us. And the other escorts, Impulse, turning to face his friend, meeting his dark head. Exactly. Green nodded. They're not in this huge rush to find Scar another escort, and that's fine. All that matters is that there's someone out there to keep them safe, if something does happen. Yeah, Impulse agreed with a smile as he looked out the window. I think it might be a good time to go. It's getting late. Are you sure everything's good here? Yep, I'm all good, Green said happily as he jumped to his feet from the couch. I'll see you soon. Impulse nodded as he too got to his feet and headed for the door, looking back to see Green watching him as he opened the door, seeing Blake waiting for him outside. I'm sure about you, but I'm ready to call it a night, Impulse told his escort as he waved to Green before closing the door. The Hermit pulled out his rackets, followed Blake away from the house. Guessing tomorrow will be just as busy? Blake asked curiously. Well, it was your idea to keep them in guessing, Impulse mused. It's true, Blake nodded. The tactic that works fairly well. The Hermit nodded, and he lunged up into the sky and flew above the trees, knowing his escort would be right behind him, not leaving his side. The world below them was teeming with monsters, but the Hermit didn't mind. He was safe up here, even from skeleton arrows. Nothing to worry about. Why is it that every time there's somebody who likes to stick to a schedule, always have to do unpredictable stuff to try to throw off any mysteries? It's just ironic. I do that to stab me, too. And I've done it to poor Impulse. Oh, no. Chapter 4. Impulse landed in front of his base, seeing the field around him well lit by torches, along with some of the trees beyond. He couldn't hear the sound of monsters, or anything really, lurking nearby. The base stood tall before him, as he looked up at it, seeing that everything was as it should be. There weren't even any phantoms lurking just below the clouds that were forming in the twinkling starlit sky. The moon peeked through it, a small visible spot, as the silvery gleam. I almost said silvery. I know I almost said it. Contrasted. He heard Blake right beside him as he looked over. I'm going to do a quick scouting around to make sure there's no trouble, Blake replied. It should be safe to go inside. Okay, I'll give you a holler if I need anything. Impulse nodded as he walked over to the front door and opened it, closing it behind him as he took the hallway. The area was dimly lit, mainly because he hadn't turned on the lights. In fact, none of the lights were on as he stepped into the main room. Covering the blinds, he spotted something in the corner of his eye. As he looked over his shoulder, noticing the trap door leading down to the tunnel system below was open. Had he forgotten to close it the last time he used it? He could have sworn he closed it. He walked over to the trap door and peeked down, not seeing anything as he closed it, pushing the table closer to it to hide it. Hopefully, if anyone had used it, they were no longer here. He shook his head, trying not to think of anything of it. He's probably Tango Dead coming over to get something from his storage room. Yeah, that was it. He could easily have could have come in and out and just forgotten to close it on their way down. An easy, simple mistake. He went over to the stairs as he climbed them, hearing the soft creak underneath as he took each step. Eventually he made it to the top, seeing the dark hallway leading to the rooms he had. All the doors were closed. No sign of anything as he walked by one of the invisibility detectors, looking down as he noticed the light wasn't on. Huh, Impulse muttered to himself, almost sure that they'd been on before he left. Could they have turned it off on their own? No, they weren't programmed to do that. Had he just forgotten to accidentally turn them off on his way out? Possible, but unlikely. Unease filled the hermit as he looked toward the stairwell, turning back to the machine as he felt the breeze at his feet. Turning back on the machine as he felt the breeze on his feet. Should he get Blake and scout the house as well to make sure no one was in here? Surely the gates had been secured while they were gone. Why would anyone come in here when there was nothing to find? He yawned as he shook his head again. No, he was fine. He was probably overthinking it anyway. It's been a long day. He'd just go to bed and get some rest, and it would all be fine. Hermit smiled as he thought as he walked to his bedroom, turning the knob as he opened it, peeking into the room. Everything was fine. The window blinds were closed, and the room was dim, making it difficult to see as he walked into the room and turned on the redstone lamp above him as it illuminated the room, blinking as he spotted something. It was bed. The bed was pre-made, tidy and clean. Resting on top of the pillow was a folded piece of paper as the hermit went over to it reluctantly. He unfolded the piece of paper, looked at it, his heart skipping a beat as he nearly dropped it. It was the familiar symbol of the clock he'd seen more than once before. Something about it was different now. There was a red circle on the clock, pointing out where the minute hand would be. The label E. The hermit immediately swallowed as he went for the communicator. I don't think I would do that if I were you, a voice warned from behind him, as the hermit whirled around to see where the voice was coming from. He couldn't see anyone. Who's there? Show yourself! Impulse demanded, as he took out his communicator warily. I told you I'm going to use this. You really think that's going to help you here? The disembodied voice mused as the hermit took a step back, inching towards the door. I don't have time for your little games, YouTuber. Who are you and why did you come in here? Impulse insisted. How did you even get in my room? How do you think? The man voice asked casually at the hermit, sprinted for the door, yelping as an invisible force shoved him backwards as he landed on his bottom on the floor. Now seeing the particles, the man picked up the communicator the hermit had dropped. I'm taking this. Give that back! Impulse cried as he scrambled to his feet and lunged at the man, who only laughed as he stepped out of the hermit's way as the Impulse grabbed for the door handle, stumbling to his feet as he tried not to think about how much it had hurt running into the door. I don't think I will, the man said calmly, as the device disappeared, where the figure faded into view. The man was wearing completely black clothing, a dark gray mask covering his face, save for his eyes and mouth. The man's crooked smile sent a chill through the hermit's spine. The hermit watched nervously as the man pulled something out of his pocket, seeing a shine of metal as the hermit gulped. The man's smile only grew wider as he emphasized his point. Mr. A sent me to give you a message. A message to die for. Help! Impulse cried as he slammed open the door as the man lunged at him. The hermit ran down the hall as he went for the stairs, hearing the man in hot pursuit. Blake, I need help! Your protector won't be able to save you, hermit. The man cackled as the hermit yelped as something flew over his head and hit the wall with a clunk. It was an iron axe. The hermit went for the stairs. The hermit started to climb down the stairs, turning as he saw the man appear around the corner, something else in his hand, as the Impulse screamed, jumping over the railing as the firework rocket fired past him, exploding harmlessly as the hermit collapsed into the main hall with a groan. The hermit excuse me. The hermit scrambled to his feet as he heard what sounded like glass shattering as the man reappeared in front of the main doorway, crossbow in hand. He put another firework projectile in. Please don't. Impulse insisted as he shook his head. slowly starting to back away as the man poised his crossbow, aiming to shoot. "You're not getting out if you're alive, Impulse," the man said coldly. "Mr. A's order." "Well, I don't agree with those orders, Impulse," the hermit proclaimed, turning to as he sprinted to the kitchen, knowing there was a back door there as he flew off his feet, launching forward as the firework hit him squarely in the back as he screamed in pain, falling to the floor as he struggled to sit up, just as the man pinned him back down again, grabbing his right arm as he pinned it behind him as the man sat on him. "Off me! Ow!" "Yes, that should hurt," he mused with a chuckle as he twisted the hermit's arm behind him. The hermit looking over his shoulder as the man pulled something else out of his pocket. "You want to stay before I finish here?" "Please." Impulse groaned before tears of pain. Feeling tears of pain stinging his eyes as the man tightened his grip on the hermit's arm. Feeling the burns piercing his skin, it struggled helplessly to push the man off him. "Please don't do this." I don't follow orders from you, YouTuber," the man sneered, leaning in as the hermit felt the man's breath against his neck. He shuddered, frozen with fear as the hermit looked up at his dark, frightful eyes. "It really is a shame it has to end like this. I was expecting more of a fight." "You won't," the hermit pleaded as he gasped in pain as the man brushed against the firework burns. "I know, I think I will," the man said with a chuckle. Suddenly, before the man could do any more, the door slammed open as someone charged down the hall. As the man yelped in surprise as he was launched off, the man launched off his feet as the hermit noticed Blake standing in front of him. As the young man knelt to check on him. "Are you okay?" Blake asked, his expression full of concern. "I'll be fine." Impulse nodded as he managed to sit up, clutching his right arm gingerly as he looked over his shoulder, gasping as the man got to his feet. "Get out of here. I'll take care of this," Blake replied matter-of-factly. Impulse nodded as he stumbled to his feet as Blake stood in front of him. The man only laughed, amused by the sight of his new adversary. "Mr. A told me a lot about you the last time we met, but how you keep getting in his way," the man said darkly. "Reminds me of old times, doesn't it? You weren't the first I am, were you?" "I won't be the last either," Blake said as he raised his chin. "You guys know each other?" Impulse asked nervously as he stumbled toward the door. "I can explain later. Just go," Blake ordered as the other man chuckled. "That's only if I let you. He's not going anywhere," the man replied. The hermit noticed the man throw an iron dagger as he ducked out of the way, quickening his pace as he grabbed for his rockets. "Impulse, run!" Blake warned as the hermit launched himself into the air. He looked back, gasping as the man ran out the door after him, grabbing his pair of wings as he put them on. The hermit swallowed as he tried to fly higher, hearing the man fire his rockets, followed by Blake. He had to guess right behind him. He didn't dare look back, terrified of what he might see, as he tried to aim toward Jam and Pearl's base, knowing that it was his best bet right now, just as he heard another rocket. This time now, it hit him from above as he screamed. Losing momentum as he plummeted to the ground, he heard his escort's shout of alarm, as he heard the clashing of swords from above. Unable to see it as he crashed through the trees, he hit the ground hard as he cried out, tears now falling down his face, as he struggled to get to his feet. His arm now bruised and aching, his back covered in burns, most of them saved from being worse from the second rocket, thanks to his wings. His vision was having issues, focusing as he collapsed to the ground. Too weak to move as he heard the sound of footsteps running, getting louder as someone came up to him. Oh, that does not look good. A familiar, strangely familiar, voice said aloud as the hermit looked up, but he was unable to see who it was, speaking in the darkness. As he was lifted off the ground, the sound of whatever battle above was silenced. All he could hear were nearby groans, hisses, bones clacking as the mobs were roaming the woods. That was until he lost consciousness completely. Last thing he could feel, some sort of gooey, slimy substance. Unable to fight back regardless of whether or not his friend fell. Yeah, I'm leaving you on a cliffhanger. Well, it's not a bad cliffhanger, but it's still a cliffhanger. You think I should continue? Maybe I can. Sure. Why not? We got that time. Chapter 5. Impulse slowly came to. All at first feeling nothing as he realized he was lying on his left side. As he opened his eyes, noticing that he was alone in a small room with 2 doors on either side. The room looked as if it was originally had been a cave, with lichens strewn on the stone walls and vines branching down from the roof, stretching down the walls. He was alone in the room, but he could hear distant voices to his left. "Hello?" the hermit called out as he cautiously sat up. The pain didn't seem to be as bad as he remembered, minus the fall that he'd had. He noted rather quickly that his arm was wrapped in some sort of sling, propped up at a right angle. It didn't hurt, at least, which was a plus. The voices in the other room grew quiet as he called out again, pushing back the blanket that had been propped on top of him. How long had he been out? Where was Blake? Were the others okay? Was he okay? Or was he in bigger trouble than he was before? How had he gotten here? Just hang in for a second, okay? A voice called back through the door. I'm getting something for you. Chevin? Impulse's eyes grew wide as he finally clicked on who the voice belonged to. What's Chevin doing here? Who else is here? Last time he'd seen his fellow hermit was right before the men ambushed the secret bunker all those months ago, when some of them had gotten separated. Yeah, that's me, the voice replied, closer to the door as it opened, revealing the speaker. The other hermit smiled. Good to see you again, Impulse. What? How? Impulse asked, unsure of what to say as his friend walked into the room, carrying a bowl of some sort of stew. Think you can eat this one-handed? Jevin offered, as he placed the bowl by the bedside table. Maybe, Impulse pondered thoughtfully. Are the injuries not bad then? We did the best we could with what we had. The blue slime shrugged with a knowing smile, sitting down in a spare chair as Impulse looked over at the stew, redirecting his attention. We? Impulse pressed, looking toward the open door. Who else is here? Oh, you know, B.F. Krellis, Hypno, myself, Wells, Jevin said with a shrug. What about TFC? Impulse raised an eyebrow. He's below us. I can't really disclose his location, but he's good. Jevin mused with his mouth. So, you're all here? Impulse pondered, eyes wide. All this time? More or less, Jevin reported matter-of-factly, before gesturing to the bowl. Try to get something to eat. You'll need the energy to get to XP's place, which isn't far from here. XP knows about this? Impulse replied. And you have a lot of questions. Jevin chuckled. I honestly don't blame you. Sort of thing was meant to be a secret. I guess I sort of just fell into it then. Impulse grabbed a baked potato, still mushy and soft, as the hermit nibbled on it. I suppose you could say that, Jevin replied with a nod, as he glanced over at the door. You probably want to get going, don't you? Especially with your protector and the other hermits. How much of that did you see? Impulse asked curiously. Personally, all of it, Jevin replied. I heard the sound of rockets and went to check it out. Next thing I knew, you were falling through the treetops and it hit the ground pretty hard. Took me at least an hour to fix you up. Really do appreciate it. Impulse nodded gratefully. You've got a lot of explaining to do. I know. Jevin laughed. A lot has happened since the 6 of us got separated. Well, technically 5. TFC had been too busy mining to notice the chaos that happened. Fair. Impulse mused. You probably got lucky there. It's terrifying being forced to surrender to those men, only to be rescued by some cool people. Yeah, cool people. Jevin nodded. XP probably found us about 1 or 2 months after you guys came back while mining. We were wary at first, but we were happy to know everyone got out safely. Why didn't he tell us that he found you? Impulse asked with uncertainty. I think it's probably best if he answered that, Jevin said slowly. Hard to know, to trust, especially when there are some guys who don't like you very much. Most of the cost is pretty nice, though, Impulse pressed. I'm sure they are, Jevin agreed with a smile. I had a little chat with XP's escort once. He knows, too? Impulse asked, even more surprised. You tell Matthias or Devin? He could've, and maybe he did, Jevin shrugged. XP never told him not to, just that it was ideal that the word shouldn't get around about us. I had no idea, Impulse admitted, shaking his head as he looked over at his now empty bowl. Do you guys have a communicator on you? Jevin hesitated for a moment as he looked into the open room. He left before shaking his head. XP was meaning to do it, but he was a little scared of asking you for fear of asking too many questions. Guess that's a fair point, Impulse sighed with a sad smile. I probably would have been on board eventually. I know you would. I knew you would. Jevin mused with a chuckle. You've already helped him already. He just hadn't found time to ask in secret since you were either busy or with someone. I'll have to have a chat with him then. Impulse nodded as he managed to stand up, surprised at how easy it was. Before either of them could say anything, the Hermits heard the sound of footsteps as Jevin too wearily got up from where he had been sitting. The two of them looked over to the door. The steps grew louder as Impulse tensed. Don't worry, it's just XP, Jevin replied. He usually comes down early in the morning before most people wake up to give us supplies. Are you sure? Impulse asked nervously. Do you think someone might have followed us? Jevin raised an eyebrow curiously. I don't know. Impulse shook his head. He was unable to say more as the door opened as XP stepped through, carrying a box in his arms, almost dropping it as he saw the two of them. Impulse, what are you doing here? The Hermit's eyes widened as he put down the box and ran over to him. I was told you'd gone missing after an attack. Yeah, Impulse chuckled, looking over at Jevin and he added, everyone's looking for me, I'm guessing. No kidding. XP shook his head with a smile before grabbing him by his uninjured arm. Are you okay, at least? Not badly hurt? Not too badly hurt? It's not perfect, but it's better than it was last night, Jevin replied casually. Thanks, Jev. Make sure the others know I was here. XP nodded as he gestured for Impulse to follow. We need to go. Where to? Your base? Impulse asked as he followed his friend, glancing back just as he saw Jevin disappear with the box under one of his arms as the door closed. No, that'd be suspicious. Be a bit suspicious, XP replied simply. I can't say I found you and have you here. People ask questions, and the wrong kind of people. Not Matthias? Impulse asked as he raised an eyebrow. No, he's fine. XP chuckled. But I didn't want certain people to come knocking on my door, you know? Not when I'm hiding 6 people under my base. Yeah, that's fair. Impulse nodded. Does Matthias know? XP hesitated for a moment before nodding. Yes, he and my escort know. That was the one request I was told to abide by. That's at least a little reassuring, Impulse replied with a nod. You could probably drop me off at Gems through the tunnel system, and I could take it from there. Okay. XP smiled as the Hermit walked up the flight of stairs, just below where the opening to his entrance to the tunnel was. Pretty genius, huh? I never would have guessed, Impulse admitted as he looked over his shoulder. Saying that, sure enough, the staircase blended in with the wall, hiding it from view. Lest he walked at a right angle. I know, XP said proudly, as he led the Hermit down the hall. They didn't say anything for a long moment, as Impulse did his best to keep up, noting the healing potion he'd been given was starting to wear off. Tried to ignore it as they walked down the hall, catching up on the way until he could see the staircase leading to Gem's base up ahead. Well, I guess this is it for the time being, isn't it? Impulse asked as they approached the stairs. Do want to thank you for the help. I didn't do all too much. Jev and the others did most of the work, XP chuckled. I didn't even know you were down there. I honestly should have checked. It's okay, Impulse replied, putting his free hand on his friend's shoulder. He put a single foot on one step. Oh, before I go, just let me know if you need anything, gadget-wise. Security, communication, you name it. You sure? XP asked with uncertainty. Of course, Herman nodded with confidence. I'd be more than willing to help you out. Great, I'll definitely have to take you up on it once you get better. The other Hermit smiled, giving him a quick wave. Take care. You too. Impulse replied as his friend turned away, walking down toward the hall before the Hermit decided to climb up the stairs, seeing the top as he took a deep breath. Gem? Matthias? Pearl? At first, he didn't hear anything as he neared the top of the stairs. Suddenly, a noise came from the main room as someone peeked their head around the corner. Gem's eyes grew wide, surprise and relief. Paul smiled when he saw her. Arriving at the top of the stairs, he waited for what he knew was coming. Anyway, that's going to be the end of this episode. I hope you enjoyed. Yep. I'll see you guys in the next one, whatever that might be. Be sure to leave any thoughts and theories of what might be going on and what you think is happening. And if you desire, not really much, it's just a little fun, you know. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.